recently received the following request. I can't sleep. No matter what I take, please, if you could devote a show to the subject of how to get a good night's sleep. I get by on only 2 to 4 hours a night. Well, we've heard you. We're going to address it today, along with how to optimize a great night's rest. Even if you can't get as much sleep as you would like to, are there things you can do to be as well rested on 6 hours as others are on 8 hours? We're going to also offer some hope and some help for those struggling to get to sleep and to stay asleep once they are asleep, all within the big picture of our Catholic faith. Today on The Simple Truth, we do consecrate everything here to the Sacred Heart of Jesus through the Immaculate Heart of Mary and the pure, strong heart of Saint Joseph. I'm Jim Havens. It is Wholeness and Healing Monday, fighting to cultivate the health of the whole person, mind, body, and soul, with our co-host, my lovely wife, Becky Havens. She's a Catholic wife and mother with a passion and calling to educate people about the importance of caring for our bodies that the Lord has blessed us with by living a healthy lifestyle. She helps others to think outside the cultural norms and to be their own advocate while not falling into the many pressures of modern medicine. She's the author of Toxin Free in 12 Months, a 12-month guide to help you transition over to a toxin-free lifestyle. She also wrote a boycott list of over 600 pro-abortion companies. You can get those resources for free and much more over at her website, safehavensmama.com, safehavensmama.com. Our topic today, how to sleep better. Quick disclaimer, we're not doctors, not scientists, just regular people looking to live well, raise our family. We believe in objective truth and in asking questions when things do not make sense, and we're not giving medical advice. We're offering a forum here today. We know a thing or two, but there's still a ton we don't know. We have some personal experiences, as do you, and we would love to hear from you during the show today. Morning survey already went out. If you're not on that list, you'd like to get our Monday morning survey, you can go ahead and go to the stationofthecross.com, go to the Simple Truth page, scroll down, put your email address in, and you'll get the survey there, and you can respond to us that way every Monday before the show. But it's always best to call in because we can't read every survey response, although we do our best. We're going to put the phone number out in a little bit. So, Becky, how to sleep better. What intrigues you on this topic today?
Yeah, I think this is something that probably affects everybody at some point in their life. And so it's good to just have some practical resources and some reasons why, and just good to kind of, talk about what's going on, because I think this is a topic that many people have asked to share. And, we kind of speak from our own experiences and then the research that we do. But in something like this, sleep seems pretty individual. Seems like there's so many things that can go into a person's inability to get a good night's sleep. And so, again, as we share things, it's not going to be like one size fits all for everybody, but kind of seeing what works individually from each person. And a lot of that has to do with what they're already dealing with health-wise or lifestyle-wise in their own personal lives each day,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I hope we're going to be able to put forth some stuff that's going to be able to help that listener or viewer that wrote in and anybody else like them. Also, I'm pretty personally invested here in the how to optimize your sleep category today. I'm in that category where I'm not able to get as much sleep as I would like to. If I can do a solid 6 hours, that's kind of where I'm at based on just my season of life that I'm in. And so how do we optimize it? How do we make sure that we get the best quality sleep for those 6 hours? I found some really interesting stuff as I dug into this on the research. So excited to bring that to you as we go through it today. But let's start with this 2017 study from the Annals of Behavioral Medicine. This seems interesting, might seem rather common sense, but I guess good to put it forth from a scientific journal here. It says this from the study: better sleep quality and to a lesser degree, longer sleep duration predicted emotional well-being and lower odds of encountering stressors on the following day. Conclusion of this study that given the reciprocal relationships between sleep and daily experiences, efforts to improve well-being in daily life should reflect the importance of sleep. We should be putting a priority on sleep is basically what this saying, but what the study is saying. But one interesting thing that I just want to highlight from this study is it's saying better sleep quality and to a lesser degree, longer sleep duration. Now, the advice that you're going to get pretty much across the board as you dive into what various doctors and what the medical establishment says about sleep is get about 7 to 9 hours every night if you can. So average about 8. 8's a good place where they want you to land. But really, this study is saying, sure, sleep duration is important, but even more important is the quality of that sleep. So that's really what we want to dig into today. Yes, how can we increase the duration if our lifestyle, our time in life, the responsibilities, the duties before us allow us to increase that duration? How do we sleep as long as we want to, as long as we want to get to sleep? How do we make sure we can at the right time that we want to go to sleep and stay asleep and wake up when we want to wake up? And then during that time, how do we make sure it's the best possible quality? Becky, anything else off the top you want to say by introduction here?
Yeah, no, I just think that, I'm curious to see what you found, because I've read so many things over the course of the last several years regarding sleep. I know I did a month of sleep in the 12 months to detox, toxin-free lifestyle. I did a month on sleep. And so I remember really digging into how to maximize your sleep. And so there's some conflicting things out there. I mean, there's a lot of studies and there's a lot of people who, share like, do this is what works, but some people try it and it doesn't work. So I'm kind of excited to have a whole bunch of resources that people can try, because sleep, like you said, is huge. You know what I mean? You got to make sure that you're getting good quality sleep. If you can get, good, quantity sleep, I guess. I feel like I personally do really well with 7 to 8 hours. But if I'm getting 6, I know I can do okay, but less than that, I'm really struggling. So it might be like a habit, like, your body gets used to something and you get used to it after a while. But I know that you've had many seasons where you've gotten very minimal sleep from early wake times, and sometimes your body gets used to it and sometimes it doesn't. So I'm looking forward to see what you're going to pull out here.
Yeah, I've learned a lot from experience of what works, what doesn't work. So I've ran many experiences or experiments in my own life regarding all of this, and I feel like I've landed in some good areas here, and also being able to sort through the research on this I think is helpful. But let's start with kind of a baseline here before we get into resources and tips and all of that. And so I'm going to the Cleveland Clinic, and so the clinical definition of insomnia, it's a bit different than what most people think. And let's start here because we really want to help those that are really struggling with respect to getting to sleep and staying asleep. And so Cleveland Clinic here defines it as insomnia is when you aren't sleeping as you should. That can mean that you aren't sleeping enough, you aren't sleeping well, or you're having trouble falling or staying asleep. So that's all pretty broad, but it goes on to say for some people, insomnia is a minor inconvenience. For others, insomnia can be a major disruption. The reasons why insomnia happens can vary just as widely, but there's 2 categories here that are important. One regards time, saying that experts classify insomnia as either acute, being short-term, or chronic, long-term, and that the chronic form of insomnia is known as an insomnia disorder. And then also regarding the cause, primary insomnia means that it happens on its own. Secondary insomnia means it's a symptom of some other condition or circumstance. So obviously you want to dig down into the root and find out where this thing is coming from. So how common is insomnia? Both the acute and the chronic forms of insomnia are very common. Roughly 1 in 3 adults worldwide have insomnia symptoms, and about 10% of adults meet the criteria for insomnia disorder. And so when you have trouble sleeping is also an important symptom of insomnia. There are 3 main ways that this happens, and people commonly shift between them over time. Initial sleep onset insomnia means you're having trouble falling asleep. Middle maintenance insomnia, this form makes you wake up in the middle of the night, but then you fall back asleep. And it's the most common form, affecting almost 2/3 of people with insomnia. And then there's the late, early waking insomnia, and this form means you wake up too early in the morning and don't fall back asleep. So, Becky, quickly before we hit the break, have you ever struggled with this? Any personal experience on it?
Yeah, I've definitely struggled with the first two where I can't get to sleep. I can't fall asleep. I need I remember, when we were first married, and that's probably when I was struggling the most, when I was a bit younger, and you would hit the pillow and you'd be out like within seconds. And I'm like sitting there for 25 minutes, like trying my best to get to sleep. I think it's just a matter of like turning your brain off, and I think a lot of it has to do with personality as well, because some people they want to keep thinking about the day, or they want to keep figuring out, okay, my to-do list. But once I started to learn how to like organize my thoughts and get things in order, then the sleep became a bit easier because I didn't have to worry about so many things. So I found that like making lists was really good. If I had something on my mind before bed, I would write it down all really quick and then be able to just, all right, I'll deal with that in the morning and be at peace with that. And then I guess I'll share, on the other side of the break, the other part.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And, we did do a show on sleep a while back, maybe a year ago or so. So folks can go and find that if they wish. And we did kind of break down the aspect of from the lives of the saints, what they had said. Now, look, I don't know St. Francis de Sales. I think of talking about obviously having a balance in life and good order. St. Benedict and his rule for living, his monastic rule, and St. Teresa of Avila, St. John of the Cross. All these saints, right? Their right order is going to be important. Having a good, solid schedule is going to be important. Some religious orders sleep more like 8 hours. Some religious orders sleep more like 6 hours or less. It just kind of depends upon how they structure things. Both can work. We're going to explain it when we get back. Stay tuned.
The Station of the Cross Catholic Media Network presents Saints and Seasons. On February 12th, we celebrate the feast of the 7 holy founders of the Order of Servants of Mary, or Servites. In the year of our Lord 1233, on the Feast of the Assumption, the Blessed Virgin Mary appeared after Holy Mass to 7 young men in Florence, Italy. The men were all members of the Laudesi, a confraternity for nobles and merchants devoted to the Blessed Mother. Their names were Bonfilius Monaldi, Bonagiunta Manetti, Manettus de Lentella, Amadeus de Amadei, Hugo Lippi, Gerard Sostegni, and Alexis Falconieri. All but Alexis would eventually become priests. Our Lady directed the men to retire from the world, which they did together on her nativity. On a visit to obtain their bishop's blessing, they were hailed as servants of Mary by a crowd of children, including the very young Philip Benizi, who would become one of the order's greatest saints. On Good Friday in the year 1240, Our Lady gave the founders their black habit, or scapular, and confirmed their name and mission under the rule of St. Augustine. Only Alexis, whose niece St. Juliana Falconieri would found the Third Order of Servites, lived to see the canonical approval of this fifth mendicant order on February 11th, 1304. In the modern calendar, the founders are celebrated on February 17th, the day St. Alexis entered heaven. Also honored on this day are St. Melitius, St. Eulalia of Barcelona, St. Modestus the Deacon, and many other martyrs, confessors, and holy virgins. For more about the saints and seasons of the Catholic Church, visit thestationofthecross.com/saints and seasons.
Hear a powerful sermon you need to share with a loved one? Maybe there's a guest, prayer, or teaching segment that deserves another listen. You can listen to any of our network-produced programs at your convenience by finding us wherever you enjoy podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Podbean, and the free iCatholic radio app. Be uplifted in your faith. Listen today at thestationofthecross.com or on your favorite podcasting platform.
Back to the Simple Truth. Jim and Becky Havens here. We are talking about the topic, how to sleep better today, and phone lines are open if you want to share anything on this topic, any comment, any question, how to sleep better. 1-877-511-5483. That's 1-877-511-5483. Getting some on Becky's experience. And before we go back to it, let me just add this extra layer in. Again, this is from the Cleveland Clinic regarding what causes insomnia. It says, what causes the condition? Experts don't fully know why insomnia happens, but the current understanding is that this condition can involve many factors. Some of these factors could be causes, or they could simply contribute to it. More research is necessary to understand exactly how and why insomnia happens, but the factors that could cause or contribute include, but aren't limited to, the following: family history, genetics, as it seems to run in families sometimes, brain activity differences, saying that people with insomnia seem to have more active brains, or brain chemistry differences that affect their ability to sleep, could be. Another is medical conditions. Physical health can affect your ability to sleep, including temporary illnesses like minor infections or injuries, or chronic conditions like acid reflux, Parkinson's disease, conditions that affect your circadian rhythm, your body's natural sleep-wake clock. Also can be factors. Mental health conditions. About half the people with chronic insomnia also have at least one other mental health condition like anxiety or depression. Another is life circumstances. Stressful or difficult life circumstances may not necessarily cause insomnia, but it's very common for them to contribute to it. And life changes. Brief or temporary changes can often be factors, including jet lag, sleeping in an unfamiliar place, or adjusting to a new work schedule, especially shift work. Long-term changes like moving to a new home can also affect your sleep. Your habits and your routine, your sleep habits, also known as sleep hygiene, can contribute to insomnia. That includes whether or not you take naps, when you go to sleep, if and when you consume caffeine, and other habits. And then finally, the risk factors for insomnia, more likely to happen in people with the following characteristics or circumstances: light sleepers, people who use alcohol, people who don't feel safe in their homes, such as situations involving repeated violence or abuse, people with fear or anxiety about sleep, such as those with disruptive sleep issues like nocturnal panic attacks or nightmare disorder. So a lot there to better understand what many people are struggling with. This is a big struggle for many. Becky, can you share a little bit more on your experience?
Yeah, that was all really interesting too, because when they say, genetics or family history of insomnia, that's a hard one, because I feel like there's a cause going on there. It could even be a learned habit that you learned from your mom and she learned from her mom, and then it gets, becomes accepted. Oh, I just have insomnia, and that's because that's in our family. But I believe that things like that can be cut, and that cycle can be broken. Even when it comes to sleep, I know we talk a lot about, spiritual warfare and healing your generational line. So even something simple like a sleep issue, I feel like that can be redeemed, and it doesn't just because your mom had it or her mom had it, because I don't see how there would be some kind of medical thing or physiological thing that would prevent that. I would think it's more like maybe there's a reason that your mom had it, and then there's the reason that you had it. So I think you can still get to the root of that reason and not just, accept it like a lot of people do. I know a lot of people will say, oh, my mom has it, and so that's just what I've been given, and so I don't really want to do anything about it, but I'll just deal with it. But I think there is definitely a way beyond that. And so I've had definitely different bouts of different kinds of insomnia, and I always feel like they're caused by something. And there's always a way out of it. So there's like acute ones that I've dealt with where after a virus, I think it was after COVID actually, and we got hit hard with that, and I struggled for months sleeping after that. And I think I read it somewhere that parasites can attach to viruses, and I was having a lot of the symptoms of parasites, which sounds gross, but I think that once you start learning about it and realizing that most people deal with that, it's good to figure out how to get rid of them, and so there's a lot of herbal remedies that you can do, and it's nothing weird. It's just dogs have parasites. We medicate our dogs because they have parasites, and our cats. So it's very likely that we have it as well. And so we need to treat that. And a lot of times you deal with insomnia when you have bouts of parasites. And so once I dealt with that and did a cleanse, I did not have sleep issues anymore. So that's more like an acute issue that was dealt with pretty quickly. But then I've had longer bouts as well where I was, dealing with kind of what you said earlier, night panic attacks, I would say. And usually it's like something really stressful is going on, or some kind of issues, big life changes are happening. And I have dealt many times with waking in the middle of the night and having what felt like a panic attack. And I've even woken you up before, and, you had to calm me down because you don't know what's happening. You just think like, am I dying? Like, what? And your heart goes fast, and I didn't really understand, why that would happen. But one of the things that really has helped that to be minimal or even totally eliminated is just dealing with my diet. And one of the first things you can do is just get rid of coffee. And for me personally, I've almost eliminated it like 100%. And especially like if you're going to have lower levels of caffeine like chocolate, it would be better in the early morning or before noon. And I feel like that people don't ever want to give up coffee, so I understand it's something that's difficult to give up, but for other health reasons I gave it up. But this just happened to be one of the consequences of it that I wasn't even looking for. And I realized looking back, I'm like, wow, I don't ever have those issues anymore. And that's been a great fruit of. So maybe coffee in this season for me is just not serving my body. And so, it's hard, especially having the baby and we're so tired, but it actually is beneficial for me at this point. So that's a huge one, I think, cutting out coffee overall. But I know that's a hard one to commit to,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're it's Wholeness and Healing Monday here. We're talking about how to sleep better. We've got some great tips coming up for you. Just laying the foundation right now in what we're going to get to, which is a lot of I think very helpful suggestions when it comes to behavioral changes to consider, as well as even some supplementation that can be helpful to consider. And it makes sense when we start to think about these things. Once we get into all that, this foundational piece is important because you kind of understand why these would be the suggestions for what to do. Because when you get into what's really going on here with many of the sleep problems, disorders, it seems to be that it's hard to shut the mind off, right? So there's a lot of anxiety going on here. That seems to be a big part of this. And so the mind is just kind of stirring, and it's hard to slow it down, hard to get it into that restful, peaceful sleeping place that you want to get it to. So it makes sense then when we get into the behavioral changes and supplementation. But first, before we get there, if you're not falling asleep during the day, or if you are falling asleep during the day, if that's what you find happening, then that's a good sign of insomnia. It means either that you're not getting enough rest at night, or you're not sleeping enough at night, or the quality of that sleep is not high enough. So we did ask people in our morning survey, how many hours of sleep do you normally get each night? And about 70% in the audience said 6 or 7 hours. So not bad. And then we had some people, though, for example, Pauline in Fort Myers, Florida. She's one of these blessed people who gets 8 hours a night. So that's pretty awesome. And then we asked folks, do you normally feel wakeful and alert throughout the day? And only about 50% said yes. So it was split pretty much even right down the middle, that most people are yes or no when it comes to feeling wakeful and alert throughout the day. And that's where we want to be, right? To understand that is a sign of good health. That's the vision we want to have fulfilled in our daily lives, is that we are active, alert and active during the day. And then we're tired and sleepy at night. So our bodies are responding appropriately to that point of the day. That's where we want to train our bodies and train ourselves to be. So subjective feelings of wakefulness during the day is actually the best gauge of the quality of your sleep. And we kind of we work off of this 24-hour circadian cycle, but then we also have something called this ultradian cycle, which is a little bit different. So the 24-hour circadian cycle, that's the body's internal circadian clock. It's synchronized with the 24-hour day-night cycle, influenced by light and darkness, can be disrupted by shift work, jet lag, irregular sleep cycles, can have significant effects on health and well-being. And these ultradian cycles, these are biological rhythms that occur more frequently than once every 24 hours. So, for example, the sleep cycle, it repeats every 90 minutes throughout the night. So ending your sleep at the end of a sleep cycle is better than sleeping more and waking up then in the middle of an ultradian cycle, the next 90-minute cycle. So it's actually, you can get more sleep, and actually the quality can be less, where you're waking up in the middle of a cycle instead of an end of the cycle. So that can be, you're getting more, but you're waking up super groggy for a long period of time rather than waking up well rested. So there's a few apps out there that can actually measure this based on your body movement. I think there's an app out there that I was looking at called Whoop, that I'm not super familiar with, but I was looking to learn a little bit more. So you got to wear a device around your wrist, or I think around your bicep, and it kind of keeps track of everything going on, various metrics with the body, and it can tell you about the quality of sleep and the cycles that you're getting. You can even, I believe, have an alarm wake you up at the end of a cycle, one of these sleep cycles. So something that might be interested in taking a look at, but just understanding that this is the way it works. Very, very helpful. And then one tip that is out there is, when you wake up, you want to get your body in tune with the circadian rhythm of the day right away. So you want to get some light in your eyes. You want to get out there in the sunlight and let your body know, okay, we're getting into the rhythm of life here. And if it's dark, which is when I'm rising, the sun is not up yet. Then turn the lights on wherever you're going to be. Make sure those lights are on and get those lights in your eyes. Again, letting your body know it's time to be up, and then it kind of clicks back into that circadian rhythm. Becky, anything on this you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I'm just curious, if you're doing that and you're getting up at like 3 a.m, and you got the bright lights on and you're drinking the coffee, and then that's kind of setting your body up for like a new circadian rhythm. Is that how that works? Because I thought you're supposed to kind of like wake up when the sun's coming up and go to sleep when the sun's coming down, but maybe it just depends. Maybe it's not the same for everybody. So would it be good to kind of like slowly ease into that in the morning and have lower light, so your body's still kind of like, I'm supposed to be sleeping, but I'm not? I don't know, like I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've read, what I've heard from the data, it's no, you want to get that bright light going right away. So obviously, I mean, depending on where you live, especially, you're not going to really be able to live according to, I'm going to get up when the sun comes up and I'm going to go to sleep when the sun goes down. I mean, there'd be times you'd be sleeping 12 hours a night. If you lived in Alaska, there'd be time you're sleeping almost 24 hours a day, right? So no, I guess we want to mimic it because the body is made for it. And so, yeah, we don't go into we don't go for any of the distorted ideas about evolution. But there is something about just the history of humanity where, yeah, there would have been a time where people were living that way. That's still ingrained in us somewhere, in the way that our bodies are designed and the way that we work. So yeah, getting that artificial light in your eyes, but also when the sun does come up, get out there, get that natural light. We're going to be right back. Stay tuned.
Here at the Station of the Cross, we proudly bring the truths of the Catholic faith to countless listeners through radio and mobile devices, and we're grateful for the feedback we've received.
It just really connected me to my faith. I always considered myself 100% Catholic, but didn't really realize that I wasn't fully practicing my faith, so I learned so much through the Station of the Cross and began just getting deeper in my prayers and feeling just so much closer to God, and so well-versed in learning more about the Bible and more about what actually it means to be Catholic. So it became very, very important to me, and I listen to the radio station daily, and I absolutely love it. I make it a regular practice of donating every time they have their fundraising, and just love it and wouldn't want it to ever go away.
If you've been blessed by listening to the Station of the Cross, let us know. Call 1-877-888-6279, extension 112. Then share your testimonial with us. The Station of the Cross Catholic Media Network is dedicated to answering the critical need of access to quality, consistent, professional, and proven Catholic programming. We cannot rely on other media outlets to properly represent our church. Catholic radio reaches Catholics, non-Catholic Christians, and non-believers alike. As a nonprofit lay organization financially independent of your diocese, our apostolate is listener-supported.
Download the app to take our programming with you wherever you go. Hear what listeners are saying about the regularly updated iCatholic Radio app.
The programs on iCatholic Radio are uplifting, educational, and have served to deepen my faith as a Catholic. Thank you for this amazing station.
Download the free iCatholic Radio app in your Android or Apple store today. If you already have the app, please consider giving us a 5-star review or telling a friend about it.
Welcome back to The Simple Truth. Jim Havens here with my lovely wife and co-host every Monday here, Becky Havens, safehavensmama.com. We're talking about how to sleep better. If you have any question or comment today, any experience you'd like to share, 1-877-511-5483. That's 1-877-511-5483. We're going to get into some behavioral things, supplementation in just a moment as well. But real quick on optimizing, here's a couple studies that I think you might find helpful. One is, this is a study I've heard of that apparently suggests that positive anticipation about the next day's events is a powerful metric for creating quality sleep, even if the sleep is very reduced. So in this study, it's saying that even if you're not getting as much sleep as you would like, if in your mind, as you're going to sleep, you're excited about the next day, and I'm guessing there's a matter of degree here. Now, if you're going to an amusement park the next day and you're a 12-year-old kid, that might be too much anticipation for the next day. If you're a little kid and it's Christmas morning the next day, maybe too much anticipation. But if you just have probably a generally good sense of anticipation about the next day, it seems to be that's going to give you more quality sleep. But I think maybe what goes along with that is you would have a sense of peace that would kind of drive out the anxiety about the next day. So maybe this study also is pointing to that less anxiety is going to be better. Another study looking at performance on organic chemistry scores states that consistency of total sleep duration was far more important for performance on these exams than the total amount of sleep duration itself. So not just about getting more sleep to perform better, it's consistently getting about the same amount of sleep. That is better for performance than just getting more. So you can possibly do better on 6 than on 8 if your 6 is consistent, if you're consistently getting 6 day in and day out, and especially if you're consistent about the time you're going into bed and the time that you're waking up. We all have, oftentimes we're waking up to alarms, but are we going to sleep by an alarm saying this is the time I go to sleep? It would make sense to have that discipline in our sleep routine and then build that consistency. That's going to help us to have a deeper, better quality of sleep. And then even if we're getting less sleep, it's still going to be better quality. A bunch more to share on this, but anything you want to chime in on with first, Becky?
No, that all sounds good. I know that's something I learned a while ago that really helps from all the studies that they've done was to get morning sunlight. So consistently also getting 15 to 30 minutes of morning sunlight, even if it's cold out, you know what I mean? It's the way that the sun goes into the eye, the retina, that helps with melatonin production and can improve daytime energy and mood and sleep. There's a whole science behind it, which is pretty interesting if you kind of go a little bit more deeply. But that's something that, I started doing for a while, and I don't know if I could tell the difference, you know what I mean? Because there was other lifestyle factors going on at the same time, but definitely something to try if you're struggling to fall asleep and stay asleep and actually have energy. You know what I mean? I think it's pretty practical advice. Go outside and you're going to get a boost of energy. It helps it budge. So there's a lot of benefits from it. And one of it is the melatonin production. So I found that interesting when doing a little bit of research on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good. Yeah, as well as some basic things that are going to be helpful to you overall, but also it's going to affect your quality of sleep, your ability to sleep well. And that are things like physical activity, engaging in regular exercise, particularly earlier in the day. It can improve the sleep quality and promote deep sleep. And then also, although it does say here that vigorous exercise close to bedtime may have the opposite effect. So it's best to avoid that in the hours leading up to sleep. That makes sense. Also, diet and hydration, eating a balanced diet, staying hydrated throughout the day can contribute to overall sleep quality. Although it's best to avoid large meals and excessive fluids close to bedtime to prevent disruptions during the night. Maybe we could talk more about diet in a little bit as well. And then also things like the sleep environment. So creating a environment that is dark, the darkness and light, as we're talking about, when you want to be awake, you want the light. When you want to be sleeping and restful, that's when you want the darkness, and you want total darkness if at all possible. So many people get like even the blackout curtains and things like that. Some people just take the blanket and just put it right over their head. But also temperature is important. Our bodies want to get sleepy. Our bodies tend to drop a little bit cooler, drop in temperature a few degrees. So maybe put the thermostat a little bit lower as you're preparing for bed, and then have the blankets on. And so you're nice and warm, but it's cooler outside in the rest of the room. And then you're able to sort of regulate your body's temperature by, putting your limbs, hanging your limbs outside the covers, or taking a blanket off or putting a blanket on, so that that's going to be helpful to you to keep your body the right temperature so that you can be sleeping and not waking up, and to achieve that deep sleep for a longer period of time. Also, consistent sleep schedule. We talked about that. Stress management. Now, a lot of people will suggest like practicing relaxation techniques, like some sort of a deep breathing and things like that. But look, we've got the treasure, right? We know what it is. The ultimate relaxation technique is to pray, right? So to turn your heart and your mind to Almighty God, remember that He is present. Remember how much He loves you. Soak your heart in His love for you. Spend time just thinking about maybe a few words of scripture, maybe I am the way, the truth, and the life, and just kind of rest in that, right? And so that's what we know best, right? As far as Christians, as far as Catholics, like we know what it is to really rest our hearts in the Lord. So we ought to be getting really good at that. And then that's going to help us in times where we want to be more restful, and certainly as we're falling to sleep at night. Very, very helpful. Also, healthy sleep habits such as avoiding the electronic devices before bed, and avoiding caffeine. We talked about that a little bit, but then also we can reduce the nighttime awakenings, which can be rather normal, that you're waking up at, maybe once at night to go to the bathroom or something like that. But then you don't want to be anxious as you do that and think, oh no, I'm not going to be able to get back to sleep. And then the mind starts going, and then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You want to just stay calm, don't turn a bunch of lights on, just try to, as dimly as possible, go to the bathroom, come on back, and then just go right back into that restful, sleeping state. And if it doesn't happen immediately, I think it seems all the studies and things seem to suggest to just calm down again. You can go back to the relaxation technique of prayer, right? Whatever form of prayer that you want to take in that, and just resting a while. Give it 20, 25 minutes. If it goes a while like that, maybe it's a half an hour. At that point, if your mind really is going and you can't get back to sleep, then maybe it isn't a bad idea to get up, go do something else, and try to maybe read a book or something to, try something else to get yourself sleepy, and then come on back, something like that. But yeah, there's lots of things that can be tried. There's a few of them. We got a bunch more. Becky, anything else that you want to share on it?
Yeah, just a bit more on the light before bed. I would say, I feel like for years and years, I would go to sleep with a hall light on or a little lamp in my bedroom. Even growing up, I hated that it was when it was pitch black. I just didn't like it. I probably was a kid who was afraid of the dark, and so, and then when I would live alone, I would go to sleep with the TV on because I just didn't like the quiet and the silence and the darkness of it. So I've kind of like gotten into that habit for years to always have a little light on, or so that you can see. And when you get up, you check the time, and it all, like you were saying, like it all is kind of a distraction, and then it's harder to get back to sleep. But recently, before we had the baby, I was really making sure that all the lights were off, and we were sleeping with all the lights off, and covering the windows as much as you can. I know a lot of times you have like street lights, and they like blast right into your window. That's not ideal. But I feel like it really is essential to have it dark in the room. And I think it's really common for people to fall asleep with the TV on, or to fall asleep looking at their phone. And so it's probably not going to get you into a deeper sleep, from all the studies now that they know that it's not going to like put you into those deeper sleeps. It's kind of just, making your brain more energetic, and it's not being allowed to like reach that state right before bed. And so I think that it's so important, like the light thing, because I noticed a big difference when it was dark, even though I didn't like it. And I just felt like I couldn't see anything, and you can't even like see in front of your face, or what if the kids are going to get up. And then I always wake up when somebody had probably gone to the bathroom, and then the bathroom light is like glaring right in you. You know what I mean? So it's a really good atmosphere to keep it dark, and to make sure that, there's so many studies on the blue light as well. I don't know if you're going to get into that a little bit, but that is like one of the worst things that you can do. And they know it now, so the screen time and the blue wavelengths are really becoming an issue for people. And so many people are on their phones and computers right before bed. That's kind of a common thing. So that is a really big way to change, is to really eliminate the screen time. I know we're not even good with that. So just trying to do that would be a really good thing, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're not bad. We're not bad on that. We have a pretty good solid routine, but yeah, sometimes we lack the consistency on it. So that's true. We can get more disciplined in it. And that is important, right? You want to have a right and good routine that is going to be fitting for helping you to get in that sleepy, restful state. You want to kind of roll into that, ramp up into that, or ramp down into that. Just as in the morning, though, it's not really a ramping up. I guess it is a little bit, but you really want to wake up and be you want to get yourself as alert as you can pretty quickly. And again, from some of the things that I'm seeing, it's good to delay having that caffeine until maybe 90 minutes, a couple hours after you get up. And that's probably good, so that it's not a crutch that you're using and drinking it as soon as you get up first thing. I know that's been something that has been a habit that I've done for a long time. Actually, trying not to do that anymore, and working on kind of leaving it until a little bit later, for no other reason than to just work on your detachment and your discipline. But also, it seems like studies are showing that that's going to be a little bit better for you not to have more of a crash later in the day. It's going to keep you going stronger throughout the day if you delay that caffeine a little bit, which is interesting. So let's get to, we did ask folks about prescription medication or supplements that they might use to help them sleep. And we had a lot of on this. We had a couple people talking about the prescription medication, and I don't know if we'll have time to get much into that, but we also had some folks talking about the supplementation. Leslie in Beach Park, Illinois said, sometimes I take melatonin if I can't fall asleep. Another said, sometimes I take magnesium. Katerina from Newton, Massachusetts says, no medication, chamomile and lavender tea helps. Also, my priest suggested to pray a novena to Saint Therese, and that helps me to to calm my mind and heart. Mike from Boston, Mass said, I say 9 Our Father slowly and lifting my heart to heaven. Eyes shut. I was told to do this and it works really well for me. Another said, have tried supplementing with all combinations of and alone GABA, L-theanine, glycine, ashwagandha, magnesium, omega-3, K2, hemp oil. So let me just lay out a little bit. So this is Andrew Huberman is really good on this. He's a scientist, I believe, at Stanford, and he lays out some of what he has found regarding some good supplementation. He says often a terrific replacement for prescription drugs would be supplementations. Many people rely on a lot of prescription drugs that could be excessive, habit-forming, expensive, unnecessary. But first, behavioral tools should form the foundation. Behaviors first, because behaviors actually rewire your nervous system. They engage the neuroplasticity, which is your nervous system's ability to change. You get better at falling asleep when you do some non-sleep deep rest. You get better at waking up and feeling alert when you view bright light in the early part of the day. With supplements, your system can react in the moment, but it doesn't rewire. It doesn't get better such that if you don't take that thing, it just leaves you where you were before. So you got to keep taking the supplement. Basically, it's not changing your body and changing your habit and your experience in terms of your behavior. So we're going to get into those supplements, what he suggests, though, as soon as we get back. Stay tuned.
This is Life News Radio. I'm Jim Anderson. The 5 now may refer to 5 who lost their lives in a D.C. abortion clinic, Cesare Sant'Angelo's Foggy Bottom, Washington Surgery Center. On Friday, pro-life attorneys with the American Center for Law and Justice, backed by looming threats from Congress, persuaded D.C. officials to forego the patient's cremation. Texas Senator Ted Cruz accused D.C. officials of a candid willingness to obstruct justice in refusal to investigate the stories of the 5. With the prospect of evidence or investigation of illegal abortions in an election year, a Justice Department letter had sought to eradicate evidence presented by the 5. Undercover investigations last month showed Planned Parenthood staff bragging of illegal abortion trafficking of students. Now, Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey promises prosecution and political action both to stop those alleged actions and to eradicate state taxpayer funding to the abortion giant. This is Life News Radio. News at Life News Radio should make you think, and often it should make you think about calling your elected officials in Washington, D.C. So remember this phone number, 202-224-3121. Let your senators, your representatives, hear from you. 202-224-3121. With perhaps roughly 1 in 7 arranged Canadian suicides now unconnected to terminal illness, Alex Schadenberg says Canada's rate of medical aid in dying also has more than doubled in 3 years, now totaling over 60,000 deaths in 8 short years. And contrary to abortion industry claims, complete analysis now shows not one state law penalizes women for abortion. For pro-life headlines delivered to your email address daily, sign up at lifenews.com. This has been Life News Radio.
Welcome back to The Simple Truth. Jim and Becky Havens here. If you want to get those free resources that Becky has available or connect with her, you can go to safehavensmama.com, safehavensmama.com. All right, we're going to get into these supplements, but first, real quick, just want to say that one of the big keys, you're not going to find this, but you're not going to find scientists saying this. You're not going to find a lot of sleep professionals talking about this, but this might be the biggest factor of all, and that is we want to be in a state of grace, right? We want to have that peace of conscience, right? No mortal sins on our soul. If you have a mortal sin, you repent of it, you go to confession, you get back into that state of grace. We want to be at peace. And again, if we have that life of prayer that we're called to, and we've set that up, we've set up our pillars of prayer throughout the day, and we've been faithful to those. If we've got everything lined up throughout the day in terms of a schedule that is going to be well ordered, that's going to make sure that we're fulfilling the responsibilities of our vocation, filling any responsibilities of our work, any apostolic work that we're called to, all of these things, we want to make sure that we're fulfilling God's will in our life each day. Again, that's going to lead to a peace in soul, peace in conscience, and then that's certainly going to make it easier. It's going to protect you from a lot of things that can try to mess up your sleep if you're prayed up and if you're fulfilling the things that you're called to do each day. Plus, we're called to do quite a bit, especially I know as a husband and a father, it's kind of nonstop active throughout the day. I actually wake up early before my wife and children wake up to have some of that alone time that I need. But then once things are going with the family, and I also work from home, so that's another layer on top of it. So I try to keep working on having a well-ordered schedule to get it all done. But when you do, guess what? You're going to be very tired at night. And then the struggle is not maybe to get a good bedtime routine, to get in that restful place, but to stay alert and active in those hours where you're reading the bedtime stories or reading the story with the family and praying with the family and all of that. But you just think of the saints, you think of the religious orders, they have a well-ordered schedule that is consistent. So whether they're doing 6 hours of sleep, whether they're doing 8 hours of sleep, and they do vary if you look at their schedules, they're consistent. And therefore, there is something that is very healthy about that. As we've read in some of the studies, it lines up with the scientific data that consistency is what is one of the biggest factors in terms of really getting a good night's rest and hitting that deep sleep that is quality, that helps you feel alert and helps you to get active throughout the day, the next day. So all those things are good to keep in mind. But in terms of the supplementation, so again, going through sort of Andrew Huberman's list here from, I believe, Stanford, he says what is most helpful that he has found, so he gives three. He says magnesium threonate, magnesium threonate, magnesium bisglycinate. He said either one, 100 to 200 milligrams. He says it makes people feel a little drowsy and greatly increases the depth and amount of deep sleep that you get. If you get a sleep tracker, you can gauge this yourself. He says 5% will experience some stomach upset with these things, and you'll know the first time. Then he also talks of apigenin, APIGENIN, a derivative of chamomile, and that's 50 milligrams, he advises. He says one source that I know of is Swanson. Also, you can take the bisglycinate and the apigenin about 30 to 60 minutes before sleep. Most people report incredibly improved sleep. He said you can check with your doctor if you have any concerns, but relatively, everything seems safe. But if you're concerned, especially maybe if you have heart issues and things like that, you can check with your doctor. And then there's theanine, THEANINE, says 100 to 400 milligrams. He says your dreams will get very vivid if you take this. People who have night terrors or sleepwalk should not take it, but it does eliminate anxiety a little bit. It eliminates the jitters a bit. And these three supplements, the bisglycinate, the magnesium bisglycinate, which he advises as a little cheaper form over the magnesium threonate, the apigenin, and then the theanine. He says that these three supplements all trigger the activation of a neurotransmitter in the brain called GABA, which tends to shut off our forebrain. Also, it goes up if you have 1 or 2 alcoholic drinks. That's another way to try to shut off your forebrain and raise this neurotransmitter GABA. But drinking alcohol before sleep really messes up your sleep. It's not a good idea. It messes up your ability to have that deep sleep and to stay in it. He also mentions cannabis and THC. We would stay away from this. These would be the forms of marijuana that would be illicit. We're not talking about the kind that we've talked about, I forget the name of it, but the kind without the THC and all that. But this is actually the stuff that's getting you high. You want to avoid that anyway. That would be a bad idea. You're messing up your reason. It would be sinful. We don't want to do that. We want to be of right mind. But this is also very disruptive to your sleep on top of it. And the supplements that he talks about are a way to have a healthy release of this GABA, which is important to shut off that forebrain, which seems like that is really one of the big problems for people that are struggling to get to sleep, to stay asleep. And, he says, find the lowest cost, highest quality source you can for the supplements. Becky.
Yeah, so the forebrain is he's saying that's the one that just keeps people awake, like because they're thinking about things. That's what's causing the anxiety a little bit. Okay, so yeah, that's a good idea if that's what you're struggling with the most. I would be nervous to take the one that said you'll have vivid dreams and nightmares, because sometimes even melatonin can do that to people. You got to be careful even with taking that, because that can actually give you night terrors as well. So always be careful when you're taking supplements to make sure you're doing it properly. And just to say, all in all, like, you can do everything you can to try to sleep better, or you can put this huge focus, the way people do in the health space, where it becomes kind of a god. Like, I have to get this amount of sleep, or else I'm not going to be healthy, or this is the way to health. I mean, I'm not saying don't be consistent and recognize that, but God can do other things too. He can call you in specific situations. Look at just being a parent. He can protect you from things if you're not getting that sleep. It's not like you're going to just go downhill and you can't function. You're going to get all these diseases because you're waking at night to care for a child. He protects you through that. And even an example, like my husband, Jim, if you don't know him that well, for as long as I've known him, he's been an early riser. I think when we first got married, he was getting up at 3 a.m, and I was like, why are you doing? Like, why are you up so early? And he would just get up and work. And he did pretty good throughout the day. I mean, we've had seasons of that off and on for years, where he would get minimal amounts of sleep, and he's still doing okay, so God can call you just like he calls the saints. If you read a lot of their stories, they're not getting a ton of sleep, but he can protect you from things. So all in all, I'm just sharing that to say, don't let that then give you anxiety. I'm not sleeping and it's so bad for my health. And in the end, be at peace, because he can make you have a great night's sleep, or he can withhold that as well by other things as well. So remember, he's in control of your sleep. And I think it's important just to offer that to him. If you're having trouble sleeping, ask him how he wants to heal you in that way, and ask him to show you different ways that is good for you personally and individually. Maybe some tips from the show, but maybe something completely different that wouldn't work for anybody else. So always go to him first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very, very well said. And to keep things in right order, absolutely. And yes, we always need to be prayerfully discerning, and we always need to be trying to figure out what works for us, because it might be different from other people. But yeah, we're laying out some general principles here that hopefully have been helpful to think about this a little bit more. And yeah, one little trick I've been working on as I've been doing this research is just to lower the temperature a little bit, a few degrees before climbing into bed. And then when I wake up, I raise it back to a couple degrees warmer. And then that's going to help people who are still sleeping to kind of start to get into that wakeful place, because that is what our bodies want to do. They want to cool down as we get sleepy before we go to sleep, and they want to warm up a little bit right before we're waking up. The hour or two before we're waking, we're kind of ramping up in temperature. So light and temperature, these things are important, but consistency seems to be, I think, the biggest thing of all. I hope you have very blessed rest, very blessed sleep, and that you're very blessed in every way. God bless you.